Oh, yeah. So you'll skip the
We'll
first.
skip that. Okay. In closed session.
There you go. Skipping the first executive session.
What do we need?
Do you want to do the first one? We're going to skip the second executive session.
What?
Sure. We're going to skip the first.
Good afternoon. I want to hereby call this special meeting of the Nacogdoches Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum is present, and notice of this meeting was legally posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Dr. Groman and Ms. Pitcock were unable to attend today's meeting. Thank you for joining us today. Please remember that items don't have to be taken in the order shown on the agenda. And please join us in turning your cell phones to some type of silent mode. All right. We did not receive any requests to address the board as outlined in the meeting notice for the public agenda. We're going to forego our first executive session, and now we will come to the discussion and action agenda. We proceed with items from the discussion and action portion of the agenda. And A is the consideration of teacher and staff incentive plans for the 2022 and 2023 school year. Mr. Michael Martin.
President Urban, as Mr. Martin's making his way up there, one of the things we've charged Mr. Whitaker with Human Resources, as well as our Deputy Superintendent, Michael Martin, and to look at what we can do, what can we review with regards to compensation and some of the things that to help us continue to be marketable with the surrounding districts and how to address that with our staff. So you'll be hearing the outcome of their information, their research. If the need arises, Mr. Martin can even call Mr. Whitaker to give us an idea of what those vacancies look like as we are moving forward. So just wanted to put that before us. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, President Urban, Superintendent Trujillo, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to stand before you and present some ideas for your consideration of adoption this afternoon. The first thing that we'll take a look at is a proposed new teacher sign-on incentive. The administration has looked, HR has looked across our area, looking at other school districts, and many of them are offering some type of teacher sign-on incentive. With the number of vacancies that we have at this current time, we are not even near our penalty-free resignation date. We feel like we need to put something out there to help attract quality teachers to the Nacogdoches Independent School District. What we are proposing at this time is a $2,000 sign-on incentive for new teachers. Ms. Anderson, if you would, we have some handouts here. If Ms. Anderson would go ahead and pass those around to the board so that you can follow along with us. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. So first is the new teacher sign-on incentive. It would be available to all individuals hired on or before September 30th, 2022 to serve as a full-time classroom teacher during the 2022-23 school year. The eligibility, the newly hired teacher must not have held a NISD teacher position at any point during the 21-22 school year. The new hire must be hired under a teacher contract at the time of hire for 2022-23, and as definition of a teacher contract, the personnel must have a bachelor's degree and have passed their content test and be enrolled in an approved alternative certification program or possess a standard State Board of Educator certification certificate. So they either have to be fully certified or they have to be enrolled in a program with a bachelor's degree and working toward their teaching certification. We would hire them, of course, under a teacher contract. This would qualify them for the $2,000 incentive. The payout date would be, for that incentive, would be paid out in November of 2022. We'll be happy to address any questions.
Mr. Martin, I do have a question.
Sure.
When we're speaking about newly hired teachers, say, for example, a teacher that worked with us 9 years ago decides to reapply with NISD and is hired, are they considered new teachers?
Yes, sir. As long as they did not work in the 21-22 school year
Okay.
for Nacogdoches ISD, they would be considered new.
Okay.
Mr. Martin,
Yes, sir.
you realize that they have to be certified and meet certain qualification. Are these teachers we hire him specifically hire for the opening we have for certain subject or just to be a teacher?
For certain subjects. We have a list per campus of the subject area teacher vacancies that we have, and those are the ones that we're hiring for.
Okay.
Even elementary?
Even elementary, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Dr. Trujillo, could you address the budget impact of this incentive? And more so, are we in line with policy concerning the fund balance?
Yes, sir. We are well within the range of our fund balance and operating procedures that we have. The funding mechanism for this, because it's not something that is a regular occurring item, it's not something that is going to be expected to be an implication on our budget implications year after year. That's why we're looking at the budgeting format for this to come out of our fund balance that we have. I know that we will get to the budget and you'll see the numbers with regards to our fund balance, but we are well within, outside of, I mean, we've got fund balance that are there that will allow us to address this.
But we will see the projections of these incentives, the numbers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll get an amount then. We'll get an amount as
And
to
do
how
you
much.
have those numbers?
Yes, sir, I do. If I may interject, President
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Trujillo, the estimated cost for this particular incentive, for the new teacher incentive, is $227,000, of which we would ask the board to take out of fund balance. And each one of these incentives you see on the sheet, I will address the amount and the funding source.
And what is our fund balance now?
Lisa, can we get back to the board?
I just have, the 227,000 will affect about approximately how many positions?
We right now have estimated about 100
About 100 positions.
Yes, sir.
What we are looking at is, in order to be fair with all hires that have been hired, brand new hired to the district, we didn't want to make a difference, and it would open up the opportunity for staff to grieve that they were hired, say, in late June. Would they qualify for this? Absolutely. So we've gone back, and when you see that number, it's for every new hire that NISD has done as soon as school was out and going into the new school year. So although we have a set number of vacancies we're trying to fill now, we're also saying thank you to our new hires for selecting Nacogdoches ISD to work with us and kind of set that in motion with those folks as well. So when you see that number, that's not the number of vacancies we're talking about right now. That's going back to the actual date of our new hires for this next school year.
Thank goodness.
And
That'd be a lot of vacancies.
can we get an idea of the number? I know President Irving was asking for the fund balance number.
Our fund balance is projected to be at 33.3 million. 3 months operating is a little over 14 million.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Are there other questions from the board? Okay, what is your pleasure? By way of a motion.
We don't vote today.
Yeah, these are items that
Are
we
these
put on-
items we have to vote on
We
today?
put these on the,
Yes.
for an action
okay.
item, yeah.
Okay, I misunderstood that.
I was,
So are we going
No,
to,
you're right.
are
We're
we
gonna
going to
listen to
vote
all
on
of
each
them.
one of
Get
the
to be
incentive
put on
plans or
action.
as a total?
let's try to get some clarity. We will have to take action on the sign-on initiative, the employee attendance initiative, the employee retention initiative, and the teacher referral program. So do we want him to address all of those?
Do we need to do one at a time?
That's
A
what-
motion at a
that's
That's
time?
what we're asking, yeah.
It's whatever you would like to do.
Individual motions.
Okay.
I would
Each
think
individual
so,
motion?
yeah.
Okay.
Individual?
Okay,
So what is your pleasure concerning the new teacher sign-on initiative?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this new teacher signing.
Thank you, Ms. App.
and I'll second.
I'm sorry?
I second that.
You said, it has both been moved and second that we would approve the new teacher sign-on initiative. All in favor, would you just show by the raising of your right hand? The vote was unanimous. Thank you so much. Now we will move to the employee attendance initiative.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Board, for that vote. The next incentive that the administration is recommending is an employee attendance incentive. This is an incentive where that with perfect attendance for the entire year, any employee, with some exceptions, could earn up to $750. How this would work is it would be available to full-time employees who were hired or employed on or before September 30th, 2022, to be eligible for the fall semester. Employees who were hired or employed on or before January 17, 2023, to be eligible for the spring semester who had perfect attendance. The employees who had perfect attendance for one semester would earn $250. So the first semester, you could earn $250 if you had perfect attendance. Employees who had perfect attendance for both semesters could go ahead for the entire school year would be eligible to receive $750. If you only had perfect attendance for the second semester, you would earn the $250 in that case. So we tried to incentivize it so that we would get perfect attendance for the entire school year. There are some exceptions. This excludes school-related absences such as activities. Also excludes out-of-district approved leave and in-district approved leave. It also excludes vacation and non-duty days as well as comp times. Those who are eligible, with the exception of those serving in positions noted below, any full-time NISD employee may be eligible for the attendance incentive. The following staff are not eligible for the employee attendance incentive: Those would include coordinators, assistant principals, principals, directors, executive directors, chiefs, and superintendents. So those are the employees or the employee groups that would not be eligible for this attendance incentive.
And my question would be, why not?
Let me
You wanna
address that
address that?
question.
Yes, sir.
What we're looking at is at the grassroots attendance. We've had some serious implications for the operations of the district. My absence of the school district still runs. Mr. Martin's absence from his duties and responsibilities, the district still runs. It becomes exponentially difficult when you have a cafeteria worker who has missed work repeatedly, because now that is critical. A teacher's absence becomes extremely critical, because we've learned from this last year, a teacher, and we don't feel it with a sub, then we take the kids, which is not ideal, and separate them, and now a teacher who had regularly 17 students in the room has 25 students in the room. So we looked at roles of individuals that have direct correlation to the operations of a campus with regards to student interactions. And so those are the things that we targeted those individuals to incentivize that. I hope that answers.
Well, yeah, it answered my question, but for me, as a board member, I like to see something for these individuals that are in these categories, because they're as essential as anybody else, if not more, okay? And I just don't want those people in those positions to get the feeling like, well, you know, I'm a principal, so I'm not going to get any goodies. And I wish there was some way we could figure something on that respect, but it's just, I don't know what, but it's just, that's my feeling about this, and I just wanted to share that with the board.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Latoya.
You know, my first reaction to this, and this is going to show my age, remember what it used to be? Perfect attendance for teachers. They put, what, $50 in a bag, and they draw your name, and you get that. One would get it per campus. Okay, so my first reaction was, oh my goodness, the work ethic has just really, that we have to do this. And then I realized this is what the pandemic has done to us, because a lot of people have been afraid to go to work. And so this will encourage them to get back to full capacity again. I think it's a good idea.
Ms. Abt, I feel exactly your sentiments. I'll give you a story. One year, Donald Lovett and I were the only two people who never missed a day. They drew, and Donald Lovett got all the 200s.
Oh, 200. Oh.
200. They were not wise enough to give us 100 each. But however, like you said, it's a shame for the benefit of students and functioning school the way it's supposed to be. I would go along with that. However, making people constantly give them a candy to say hello or shake hands, I don't believe in it. It's the ethic of a human being. It has to be exercised when you have a job.
Mr.
And
President?
this, I'm sorry, this similar to the new teacher sign-on is, like, this is one thing we're doing for this year, and it's not okay, great.
Absolutely. If you look at the funding source, once again, the funding source, President Irving, is fund balance. That's something that is not tied to that we will be going on. I completely agree with Coach Fashid. This is going on and doing this on a regular basis. It does nothing to entice. But we find ourselves in a situation this year that we want to make sure that our folks know that being present, being there, getting back into the day-to-day operations of school, and the value that brings to the campuses. That's why, in reality, why we excluded the folks that are there, is we wanted to make sure that the message was saying is right at the grassroots, in the classroom, on the campuses, these are critical positions that we need to have them every single day to get back to the direction that we need for our students.
And just to make a statement, to brag about myself, I left the NISD with 335 days unused.
Wow.
Yep.
Indy?
Mr. President, if I may, one other thing is the budget impact for this particular item is $141,250, and it would also be The funding source would be fund balance.
Would you repeat that total again?
$141,250.
And that's a if
That is an if, yes, sir. That was if every,
they got to show up to work.
yes, sir.
Colleagues, if there are no other questions, what is your pleasure?
I assume if they are absent, then they have to bring doctor's note or things of that nature.
No, sir, we are looking strictly at 100% attendance. No excuses.
Okay, great.
Yeah, this, great question. If it's FMLA,
Yes.
if it's sickness, you're absent, it's just clear and clear and cut. The only ones that we're not is, once again, the items that you're on school business, you've been released from your responsibilities because of a staff development or a training that is out of your control. And I understand these others are out of your control, but the key is to make it clear, any absence at all would take you out of this. And that's why we kept it at a minimal amount, so it's not this huge amount that's there, so that, Uncle Sam's going to take their cut in there. When you get $250, it's an incentive, but is it? I mean, you got all your taxes and your insurances and everything else that come out of it, so, but.
President Irwin, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the employee incentive up to $750 funding source out of fund balance.
It has been moved by Mr. Montoya. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been moved in second that we would approve the employee attendance initiative. All in favor will show by elevating your hand. The vote is, thank you so much. Employee retention incentive.
Thank you, President Irvin. The employee retention stipend, the administration is recommending a $2,400 for full-time and a $1,200 part-time stipend for retention of our employees, available to both part-time and full-time employees who remain employed with Nacogdoches ISD for semester 2022-23 school year. The eligibility for full-time employees requires that the employee be hired or employed on or before January 18th of 2022. Eligibility for part-time employees requires that the employee be hired or employed on or before January 18th, 2022. An eligible employee that terminates employment either voluntarily or involuntarily before the November 22nd payment will not receive any payment. Similarly, an eligible employee that terminates employment early, either voluntary or involuntary, before the June 23rd paycheck payment will not receive the second installment. Substitute teachers are not eligible for the retention stipend. Our payout dates would be in two installments, one in November of 2022, the other in June of 2023. Our biweekly employees will receive the payment on their final paycheck of the month, of those 2 months. The total cost for this initiative is $2,305,200, recommended to be taken out of fund balance. I repeat, $2,305,200.
One addition to that, Mr. Martin, is that a portion of that also comes out of our ESSER funds. You recall, this is one of the things the board's acted on this last academic school year, and we were able to take it full from ESSER. So just wanted to make sure you knew it's not just fund balance on this one.
It's a combination.
Combination.
It's termination.
I have a question. Do we have a problem with teachers leaving before, I mean, this is retention to fill out the year. Do we really have a problem?
We do. We do have individuals that, for a variety of reasons, teaching is not what they thought it was going to be, and they get in there and then they leave before that. We don't want that to be a gift of funds. because there's not, your obligation is to work for the school district. And so we're not doing the payout. Same thing with the second disbursement that we have in June. We're looking for retention, meaning the full academic school year and that we have their commitment with Nacogdoches ISD.
Mr. Martin, we exercised the same thing last year.
Yes, sir, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a nationwide issue.
I understand. I was in that meeting. The teacher shortage is the biggest problem most campuses, or most the districts have. So since we did it last year, how many left after Christmas? Do you have any idea?
I would have to get that number for you, Coach.
Okay. I just want to see how many people actually finished the year.
Okay. We can have that available for you.
I'm just curious, out of curiosity, but how did you guys determine these amounts that we were paying for each one of these programs? Were you looking at how the difference in the state, or how did you guys just kind of work that out?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Mr. Montoya. Actually, Mr. Whitaker and his team did some research across our area, as well as school districts. What we did was we looked at other school districts and what they were offering. Be happy to spill out some of those examples for you.
No, I was curious, but
Yes.
I suspected that's what you guys were looking
Yeah.
at, the area, so. okay.
Our intention, let me rephrase that. My intention was, it goes back to what Coach said earlier, is we get back to the routine of what we need to do as a school district, people come in. And that's why we didn't come to the board earlier than now. But now we're finding out other districts have been doing this. And we've, unfortunately, have lost employees because of the dynamics of where we find ourselves economically across the country. We have teachers that find it, at this point, it breaks the bank for them to drive from center to here to work when it's easier for them to find employment closer to home. Some of our families, daycare, along with gas prices, has really made it astronomical for our teachers. So the reason for this late move is because of the fact that we're seeing that impact. We're seeing it with the number of vacancies that we're currently still trying to hire. That's why these specific incentives are being addressed tonight or today, because we are not a district of innovation, and because of that, and the districts around us that are a district of innovation, their date for teacher abandonment of contract is Friday for some of them. Mr. Martin, we are still 4 weeks away or so.
Yes, sir.
So we run the risk at this point of losing teachers, continuing to lose teachers. And we have, and they have that opportunity to look at other places that they might be able to work. But our date kicks it to the end of the month, whereas some of these other districts that are District of Innovation, their deadline is Friday, which means the teachers cannot leave their contract, they cannot leave their location. So when you're seeing an incentive like this, it's because of the fact that the intention was not to move in this direction, was to get back into the flow of things, but because of the impact that has been hitting nationwide on the economics, the gas prices, and employment, all the things that are going on, causes us to look at what can we do to become competitive like our neighboring school districts that are providing some of these incentives. And I'm going to tell you, we're not leading the pack. When you see these numbers are very conservative when you look at what we're providing, but it also shares our appreciation with our staff in providing that. So I know Mr. Martin has some numbers, Mr. Montoya, he can share of some of the folks that are around us that are doing some things.
Well, I just think it's a very creative process for us to be able to keep our teachers and keep our staff with NISD, and I think that's one of the biggest things as board members, that we need to make sure that we're keeping all the people that we have for NISD. So I think it's a very creative process, and I like it, so.
Is there any system can we develop for the returning teachers to get stipends beside the incentives that we give? In other words, beside the top of their salaries, if they stay with us the following year. Am I making sense?
You know, I was thinking that too, but then I thought, well, if they're a returning teacher and then they stay the whole next year, then they get this bonus too, you know, so that in a way, that's their
I was talking
bonus.
maybe cut a little bit over here, put it on the, take it out of one pocket, put it in the next pocket.
No, there's not. Basically, when we make a commitment like this, understand also, this is important for us to know, is we're going to continue to investigate what can we do to address salaries with our teachers, because all of these are incentives. But there are folks out there that are trying to figure out what are these implications on TRS.
Yeah.
And this is all outside of TRS. So those folks that are looking at numbers and values, to your point, if there was a way we could do this in another direction, and the only way to do that is to look at just how do we address salary
Yeah.
As a full package. This being an incentive that we're looking at, and it's not a year-to-year implication and commitment. That's why we're able to go to fund balance and ESSER to utilize it that way. But that's something that we will be able to, as a collective team of one, is be able to look at what can we do to have long-lasting impact and effects with our full staff. And when I say full staff, I'm not just talking teachers, I'm talking cafeteria workers, bus drivers, our secretaries, our aides, all the folks that we have, because we really have got to look at the disparity in our salaries and what is that percentage. And so it's a great point, but unfortunately, Mr. Prosecutor, we could not do that.
Well, just for information, my colleagues, I attended one of those seminars. It was a few principals talking about their campus day problems that they're dealing. And I think Spring ISD said they pay $75,000 beginning teachers, and LaPorte said they pay $65,000, and they're still struggling.
Yes.
I think it's important too, Dr. Trujillo, if I heard correctly, and I want to make sure I know this, but you said these are incentives. Doesn't necessarily mean that next year we're going to have the same incentive program that we're going to vote on again. This is something we're doing this year, and I don't want people to think that this is something that we're going to be ongoing doing, because it is an impact on our budget, and we have to look at that, so.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay, we will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the employee retention stipend as written here.
I'll second.
It's both been moved and second. All those in favor, would you show? Thank you, the vote was unanimous. The next item is the teacher referral program. Mr. Martin.
Before you start, Mr. Martin, I'm going to tell you, this one is my favorite. Although there's more on the others, this one is my favorite, because there's nothing like exponentially reaching out and exploding our recruitment efforts. And this puts value back in the hands of our teachers and our staff. So with that, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, President. This is also one of my favorites. This is the teacher referral program recommending paying teachers $1,000. Let me go through some of the details. External hire. To receive the stipend, the candidate must be an external hire, meaning the candidate does not currently work for Nacogdoches ISD. An internal referral is just as welcome, but not eligible for the stipend. Eligibility. With the exception of those serving in the noted positions below, any employee may refer a candidate for hire as a classroom teacher with the district. The following staff are not eligible for the referral due to a conflict of interest. Any individual assigned to a position with hiring authority over teachers, including but not limited to the following positions: assistant principals, principals, directors, executive directors, chiefs, and superintendents. Full-time classroom teacher. Eligibility for the referral stipend requires that the candidate be hired as a full-time classroom teacher. The new hire must be hired under a teacher contract at the end of the hire, at the time of hire for the 2022-2023 school year. Again, the definition of a contracted classroom teacher is a person who has a bachelor's degree and passed their content exam and is enrolled in an approved alternative certification program or possess a standard State Board of Education certification. Written evidence of the referral. Applications will provide a location for the candidate to enter the name of the employee who referred them. The candidate must complete this section at the time of completing their online application. So we have, Human Resources has gone into our application system, and they have added a field to where the applicant can enter the name of the person or the employee that is referring them to the district, and they will be paid the $1,000 upon the applicant being hired as a classroom teacher. There is no limit to the number of referral stipends, so we have opened that up. So if you know 5 teachers from another school district that are willing to come and work for NAC ISD, we'll take all 5. And the referring person can earn, $5,000 at that point.
And possibly an application for Human Resources.
Right.
I was going to say that. That was like
The payout dates for the stipend will be paid in two installments. That will be January 2023 and August of 2023. Each payment is dependent upon the referred teacher remaining employed by the district at the time of the payout. Stipend will be prorated if the applicant does not begin employment at the start of the semester. Example A. NISD employee refers a teacher candidate who is hired in August and they complete entire academic school year with the Nacogdoches ISD. The NISD employee would receive $500 in January and $500 in August. Example B, NISD employee refers a teacher candidate who is hired in August and they resign the following January. The NISD employee would receive $500 in January and no referral stipend in August. Example C, NISD employee refers a teacher candidate who is hired in January and they complete the rest of the academic year with Nacogdoches ISD. The NISD employee would receive one $500 payment in August. You happy to entertain any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Martin.
Sorry.
If somebody was an ISS teacher and for some reason laid off 4 years, and coming back, somebody referring back, coming back, that counts or does not count?
That does count.
Does count. Okay, next question I have is, what level are we shortage we have?
What level?
Secondary, elementary, or?
Right now, Coach, as of today's numbers, I would say that we're almost even secondary and elementary. We have about 53 vacancies today.
Total.
Total.
Now, Mr. Rashid, even though we're even, finding a secondary teacher,
Yes, sir.
because they're specialized.
Right.
Becomes a little more complicated, because at that point, is it an algebra teacher, is it a math teacher, is it a fine arts teacher, what is that teacher that we're looking for? So exponentially becomes a little more demanding.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're relying on our folks that are in that area. So an algebra teacher knows that we need an algebra teacher. They've gone to conferences, they know, and they may be able to reach out to somebody that's thinking about making a move and be able to help us recruit an algebra teacher into the district as well.
I am well aware of that, and specifically, I was going to say, are we looking for subject teacher or just about
Yes,
teacher?
for subject teachers and elementary
I'm
teachers
well aware
across
of
the
that,
board.
Yes, sir.
And what would the budget impact be for this?
The budget impact for this one would be $56,500. Again, the funding source would be fund balance.
Now, if you notice the correlation there, we're looking at current vacancies. This is not retroactive.
Right.
This is looking from the date that the board has entertained this, and whatever they decide to vote, if they voted this, then this would become enacted immediately.
Yes.
And at this point, when applications are hit, then they would submit that on the application. This is not retroactive, so any hire that has been hired prior to this We're not going back and asking them who recruited them. We have a key set of vacancies right now that we are attempting to identify and locate educators to bring to Nacogdoches.
I read it very carefully. I believe you closed all the loopholes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve teacher referral program of $1,000. Funding source would be from fund balance.
thank you, Mr. Matoya.
I second that.
It's both been moved and second, all in favor? The vote is unanimous, thank you, board.
President Irving, total implications, just so that, because you've been given total numbers, total implications for the budget, for the total amount?
Yes,
I know
sir.
they've been keeping their numbers, I just want to make sure that they've got it.
Yes, sir. Total implication budget amount is $2,871,200.
Okay,
Thank you, President.
thank you.
Before we move away from this, I'd just like to ask, I mean, all of this is addressing our teachers mainly, but also staff retention, and it's, you know, at all different levels, like we said, pandemic fear, or moving, or salary, or whatever, but it's all money. And so I would just like to ask, because there's other reasons why we lose teachers, as you well know, that and retirement. Are we doing anything to find out why teachers are leaving, you know, a particular teacher leaves beyond the exit interview? Like, does HR reach out to them and say, is there anything we need to, I just was curious.
Typically, the only mechanism that the districts have, and that's if they choose to include, would be in the exit interview that they have. So currently, that is the mechanism that we do get, and even when we do have people that exit in the middle of the year, we won't really know until we get a document from them. Sometimes it's very personal, and they don't share that. So we're at the helm of trying to figure out how to do something like that, other than the exit interview. But
Good.
that's the only thing that we have at this time.
Yeah,
You know,
okay, good. I mean, just how can we do things better, you know, kind of out there, because you know they got opinions.
Oh, yes.
I agree with Ms. Apt. I think, you know, having the extra interview is a nice tool to have, but I'm not sure that it's very accurate in getting the real reasons why some teachers leave. And so it would be really nice to figure some way that they would have that option besides the exit interview to state their concerns and whatever issues they had before they left.
Well, frankly, nobody burns the bridge. They want us to use us for
Well-
reference.
Well,
But
right.
I think they should be given that opportunity. I just do.
Thank you, board.
Okay, is everybody okay? Thank you. We'll now move to the agenda review portion of today's meeting and discuss items from the consent agenda. Now, no action will be taken on these items. The first two are the board meeting minutes and the business office reports. Do anyone have questions or concerns with any of those items? All right, we'll go to the budget amendments. Ms. Barber.
Good afternoon, President Urin, board members, Dr. Trujillo. So I'd like to begin with the budget amendments, and they begin on page 25. The first budget amendment we have is just budgeting a donation for $79. The second budget amendment is budgeting funds received for athletic playoff games and their associated expenses. The third budget item is to budget funds to pay for the Cardinex software. That is the software for scheduling that we purchased for $29,414, and so we're taking that from instruction. My computer's going through an automatic update.
That's okay, we have a copy of the fourth
Tuesday,
one.
what's the problem?
Is
Technology.
the insurance claims.
Don't they know it's only Tuesday?
Okay. All right, the next budget item is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is to budget funds received for insurance claims, and then their associated repair costs. Budget item E. This is our last budget amendment of the year, and if we go over budget after this point, that is a ding on our audit. So every year, I bring this budget amendment to you at the end of the year, and I'm just basically spreading the wealth to make sure that we don't go over budget anywhere.
Okay.
So as you can see, I'm taking funds, we had an overabundance of funds from Function 53 data processing, and I'm spreading that across many other functions there. The next budget item is to increase the budget for Medicare on behalf to agree to the most current projections. So that is an in and out budget amendment, and it's on paper only. It's not any cash changing hands. It's something required by accounting procedures. The same is true of item G for TRS on behalf to agree to the most current projections. Item H, increasing the budget for audit services. We're increasing it by $11,455 and taking it from functions 13 and 11. Item I, transfer for E-rate savings for telephone service to technology fund. So built within our budget is we get savings on our telephone service through E-rate, and at the end of the year, we transfer those savings into our technology fund. And finally, the final budget amendment is transfer for increased UIL stipends. So we are increasing function 36 by $2,600 and decreasing function 13 by $2,600. Any other questions on?
Yes, ma'am. Item F, the word Medicare confuses me. What is that?
It's part of TRS.
Right. Don't
Retirement.
Every teacher pays their own Medicare.
It has nothing to do with Social Security Medicare. It's
Okay.
all related to TRS.
Okay.
And their retirement. And again, they estimate that's what TRS is providing,
Right.
and they make us record a revenue for that and an expense for the same amount. They're just making us recognize what TRS is doing. And it has
Okay.
nothing to do with Social Security.
I understand, but that's why I say it throws me out.
Yes, it does.
When you get
It
my
does.
age, you're concerned about it.
Yeah. Any other questions on budget amendments?
No, ma'am.
All right, donations, under 2,500.
All right, those are on page 33. And we received a donation of $78.98 for tennis. And that was from the Dragon Athletic Tennis Booster Club. We also received a donation of $180 for the High School Garden Club from the Living Abundantly in Christ Ministries.
Any questions? All right, moving on to the investment reports.
All right, on our investment reports, we have, again, we are seeing an increase in our interest rates, and we earned in the, we've earned a total of $32,000, a little over $32,000 for the month.
Looking at this on the bond fund, are we still receiving interest on that money?
Yes, we are. We, in fact, we earned a little over $10,000 on the bond fund, but
Okay.
again, that will continue to decrease because we are spending those
We'll
funds.
we'll take whatever we can get, right?
Yes, yes.
Any other questions?
And just, if anybody has any other questions, I'll take them.
Purchases over 25,000. Let's get with, were there questions from the miscellaneous business office reports? Okay, purchases over 25,000. Back to you.
Thank you, President Irvin, board members, Superintendent Trujillo. So our first item is our Reading Academy. As part of HB 3 and the last legislative session, they mandated that all K through 3 reading teachers go through the Literacy Achievement Academies. And so we have to have that completed by the end of this school year. We took a slow approach. We wanted to be very methodical in what we were doing. So the very first year that it was required, we asked our district administrators to go through it first. This year, during this school year, we've had our principals and assistant principals, and so that leads us to this next school year of having about approximately 136 teachers go through this. It would be the blended model, which means it's online, and Region 7 is kind of our facilitator in between TEA. So our teachers will periodically submit their artifacts and their assignments to Region 7. They kind of go over it and double check it for us, send it back to us if there's any problems or flags that TEA may see, and then they submit it on to TEA. At the end of the year, they get a certificate saying that they have completed it. It's about $400 per participant for the blended model, for a total of $54,400. And then one other thing that we wanted to point out or wanted to remind us of in our comp plan that hopefully will be adopted on Thursday night, there is a proposed $5,000 stipend for those individuals to go through the Reading Academy to accommodate them for their time. It's about, they say I think it's like 30-something hours, 36 hours. They've reduced it since our administrators and district administrators went through it. And so we're greatly appreciative of that decrease, but it's still a significant amount of time on top of their already hectic schedules.
Aren't you excited? I mean, I've been hearing such great things about this across the state.
Absolutely.
I'm excited that finally it's down to our teachers who, where, the rubber hits the road kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Accelerate Learning.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Urban. This is located on page 113 and then subsequent pages for the quotes. This is, Accelerate Learning is also known as our STEM scopes. We've brought an action item to you a couple of years now. This is just expanding our online access and materials by purchasing for grades 6 through 8 as well as algebra. You'll also note that there are 3 quotes that are attached. One is for math professional development, science professional development, and then our math online access. Dr. Corley was kind enough to bring an updated quote regarding the science PD. It, in your board book, currently says it's $12,400. We were able to get it reduced to $9,400 for a savings of $3,000. So this actually brings our recommendation down from $76,000 to $73,000. And I will update the quote as well as this action sheet for Thursday evening's board book.
I have a question. Since we have used it for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, I think it was 2 years ago, but it was mid-year that we adopted this for our math. No, it was for our science. How have we monitored its effectiveness?
So there, within the math portion, let me speak to math specifically, there are periodic, if you want to call them progress measures, about 3 times per year that those students take an assessment. And so we're monitoring those. Those are entered into our DMAC system.
Okay.
And so we're able to look at that as part of our local assessment system.
And so we've kind of been comparing it to our students' progress before they used this, right? And we're pleased, huh?
We are pleased.
Okay.
Of course, with anything that you implement, it typically
Well.
takes 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So we're still on the cusp of that. And unfortunately, you hate to continue to say it, but we are hopefully ending COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a lot of just abnormal years, and I'm sorry to say it, whether it's teacher vacancies,
Right.
absences, student absences, things of that nature. So we're hoping for at least one more solid year to thoroughly begin to see that longitudinal data. Does that make sense?
It does, thank you. And because of what's coming up today, we're going to be talking a lot.
We are, yes,
And I'll
ma'am.
probably have quite a few questions. And I just want everyone to hear me on this. My questions are not accusatory at all. I think they're doing a great job. It's mainly to get information out there to our stakeholders in case they're going, well, why are we doing this and why are we paying for more? This is why we're
And-
seeing some progress.
Yes, ma'am. And the good news is, we've moved from online training to now face-to-face training.
I do have one more question, though. So we're going to need professional development for our teachers on using this. When are they going to have that? Will they have it as early as August, or it'll be in the year?
Yes, ma'am.
As early as
I believe it's
August?
on the books for August. And
Great.
I'm looking at Dr. Gorley.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't have the PD calendar pulled up in front of me, but she just
Good.
gives me the affirmative that, yes, ma'am, it's been booked.
Good, good.
Yes, ma'am.
I may add, President Irving, Ms. App, some of the things that you're going to hear in addition to this is the refinement. It's just not only just getting the stuff, but how do we put people in front of them? And some of the things that we're very fortunate with, and Dr. Hill's been tasked with this, is also providing that support by finding individuals that are math, their literacy, their sciences. So you'll hear that we've got some folks that are going to be working directly when it comes to math instruction. We have a math coordinator that will be working with that. We also have a literacy coordinator. And so you're going to see those dynamics playing in. I also want to qualify something because although we have all this set up and it's scheduled to come in, it's not until we see the stuff. So I just want to make sure that we know that we're still on the delivery of some of these things.
Yeah.
For example, and I give you a good example, Fontes and Pinnell.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Dr. Hill, could you enlighten the board, we keep getting packages. We got, the very last package we got with regards to Fontes and Pinnell arrived at what month?
May.
May.
I know.
So arriving with the resources, and when teachers are unpacking things in May, and that's the content they're using, and there's the air. Thank goodness. So it's just to say that we are scheduled to come in. I just wanted the board to be enlightened to the fact that we have it scheduled, ready to go, but stuff happens, and all of a sudden, it's somewhere between here and there. But we're leaning in heavy to make sure that all of our teachers have the necessary items so that we could do proper staff development, proper training, and equip them with individuals that they'll phone a friend, call, and get some support from our coordinators as well. So I just wanted to add that.
Well, and I'm so glad you did add that, and not just for the board's benefit and even our stakeholders' benefit, but for the teachers' benefit, because if they get a little bit here and they think, this is it, well, this is so incomplete. And so, we just want to encourage them that what we are purchasing, to our understanding, is going to be very good. And you're right, shipping is so unpredictable.
Any other questions? Okay, Ingenuity.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Irvin. So this is our second year of this third-year agreement. So I believe we've been using Ingenuity for quite some time now, at least year 5, for me. And so we've used this both at Margie Chumley for their core instruction, as well as at NHS. I believe there's 70 licensures for Margie Chumley, and then 40 for the high school. So the total of this one is $70,876.
Any questions? If not, Instructure Incorporated.
Thank you, President Irvin. So this is Instructure, is just another name for Canvas. A couple of years ago, back in COVID, we had 2 different learning management systems. One was Seesaw for the early grade levels, and this is Canvas for grades 3 through 12. And so this is a quote to continue for year 3. I will tell you, I did notice a mistake. It is my fault. I did not put in the second quote that I should have in here. So you might have been looking at the quotes and realized they did not add up to the $40,882. So there is one that I inadvertently forgot to include, but I will make sure that it is there for you on Thursday evening. That particular quote is for $35,581. So this is just to continue this service.
Any questions?
How are our teachers getting along on the training on this? Because, of course, when we got it, we were in the midst of pandemic, and it was craziness. But last year, they got to get to know it a lot more. And are we finding that more of our other systems work well with it? Because we've been able to, like grading, so it's not duplicating and that kind of.
So grading is still a concern. I'm
Okay.
looking for Miss Morris. I know as late as last week, she was on a call with them.
Okay.
That unfortunately, they are just, eSchool and Instructure are just not playing very nice with one another.
And it's not really necessarily Canvas's fault, it's.
I believe it's just the
Yeah,
integration, yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Right.
But I don't hear as much concern over the use of Canvas that we did, early on with the pandemic, just because it was so new. And back in those days, that was just our main mode of instruction.
Right.
Now that we're able to balance some face-to-face and online, it seems to be working well.
And so the professional development that we're giving to our teachers, barring maybe our new teachers, it's kind of evolved to more specific questions and their needs. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. Ms. Morris, I know you're digital learning specialist. Do you mind asking or talking to us about the PD?
So as far as their PD, they do get monthly trainings every year. Now this year I'm really excited. We're going to go from 2 digital learning specialists to 4. So that's going to provide somebody at the middle school and the high school, basically full-time, that's going to really be able to provide them that support they needed. So a lot of their trainings they haven't been able to really dig in there and get. So this, because of the lack of support we've had previous years due to hiring. So I really do feel like the PD is going to they're going to have more time with them. This year they were able to do once a week, so it was hard.
Yeah.
So, yes, so we'll have more trainings, more PDs, and hopefully, really get those teachers on board with using those devices in the online programs.
Good, thank you. See, this is such good news that we need to get out there. Because before we even adopted it, I'd heard such great things about Canvas, and then I want us to be able to use it to its full potential eventually, so there's a lot out there, a lot of bells and whistles. I want to ring those bells and blow those whistles.
Ms. App, before you leave the microphone, I want to also publicly say thank you, because when you're dealing with 2 powerhouses, and they own their property. eSchool owns their property, Canvas owns their property, and they're these big entities in a sandbox. If you don't have a really good moderator that gets in there and says, forget about the proprietary ownerships that you have, what's in the best interest of what we're trying to accomplish. And she's been a great referee. to get both folks, and that's with any entity that we have, is bringing the folks in and figuring out, okay, how do we navigate this? Because eSchool is correct, if you just see eSchool.
Yeah.
Canvas is correct when you see Canvas, but when you have to put them together and play nice in the same sandbox, all of a sudden, they're protecting their data, they're protecting, after all, we own all the data. And that's what Kirsten constantly has to remind the folks. We own the data, we just need to make sure that they play nicely in the sandbox.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we say thank you, because that's something that you've been navigating with, all, not just these two, it's all the other entities that we have. And Dr. Hill and her department find a great program, and we all say, great, but then you've got to figure out how does it play with our software? And how does it work in that direction? So I wanted to make sure that, Ms. Apt, you see that she's not going to do that, so I'm going to do it for her to say that we do appreciate the work you've done with these entities. And unfortunately, that residue falls to the teachers because if Canvas is not playing, but you've strategically hired some people that are going to help us do some of that effectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, learning A through Z.
Thank you, President Irvin. Learning A to Z is a supplemental resource that we've actually been using since 2016. We use it mainly at the elementary campuses. It is both in English and Spanish. It provides some additional leveled readers that we feel very comfortable sending home with students. It also has some decodable readers in there as well. So since we've used it for several years, unfortunately, the price jumped up on us this year. And so hence, that's why it's coming before you all, because it exceeded the $25,000 in the past. It has not. This year it did, unfortunately.
Any questions?
So, and we've used it since 2016, did you say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So this is sort of, the idea is that this will be supplemental to our Fontes and Purnell? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. You know, Fontes and Pinnell comes with a number
Oh, yeah, they have a
of
lot.
guided readers.
Right, this is
Sometimes
just
we
give
don't
us-
feel as comfortable sending them home because they're, you know, they're nice and we're afraid if we send them home that they may not come back, where these are just printable ones that we can either print in black and white or in color, and that the kids spend a lot of time with. It doesn't mean that they're subpar to Fontes and Pinnell. That's not what I'm saying. We just feel more comfortable sending these home maybe as opposed to the other ones.
Plus, it's always good to have more options.
Absolutely. Yeah, a variety.
Any other questions? Okay, learning.com.
Right.
Dr. Hill.
Thank you, President Irvin. Learning.com. So this is a digital literacy instructional resource for K through 8 students. And so it focuses on just computer fundamentals such as keyboarding, online safety, digital citizenship, internet usage, online communication, visual mapping, multimedia, word processing. So it does a gamut of things. And so we have visited with the campus principals and are working with them to implement it during the instructional day. Could be during the computer time, possibly during an elective.
Any questions?
But we've not used them before.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That was the one question I didn't ask her.
Yes, that was, I think, the one. Yes, we currently use them in the middle school for their computer literacy course, so, but we're going to add elementary to that.
Oh, great.
Thank you. Solution Tree. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, President Irvin. So this one is a biggie, as you can tell just by the mere amount. This is for a year 2 agreement. We would like to continue and onboard additional campuses to the Response to Intervention Academy, as well as continue our work with Solution Tree and onboard more campuses, and then also focusing on RTI as well as PLC, Professional Learning Communities. RTI is Response to Intervention. Again, you may hear some language from the state calling it MTSS, which is a multi-tiered system of supports. They're synonymous, though.
Okay.
That's just the new buzzwords. So what this will do is this will allow for 6 campuses, and I've got them listed there: Nettie Marshall, Early Childhood Center, BQJ, Carpenter, Mike Moses Elementary, Reggae, and McMichael to participate in both PD as well as coaching activities. So this would allow 6 campuses to participate. It's 29 days of face-to-face coaching for focusing on MTSS or RTI, and then 21 days of face-to-face coaching on professional learning communities.
And just a reminder that this is that group that the teachers enjoyed so much that we just recently added some extra days of development with, and they enjoyed it so much.
We did.
So basically, all of our elementary are going to be included except TJR?
So from a coaching standpoint, they can send people to the academy. So we have an academy where it's
Okay.
6 days of training.
Uh-huh.
So it will be for interventionists. We have some behavior folks on some campuses that will participate. And then, like Margie Chumley, you don't see them specifically listed on here, but they will send people
Okay.
to
so
the
they can
academy.
send-
Does that make
okay.
sense?
Yes, it does.
But
it
it's
does.
included in
Uh-huh.
this price. So you have an amount, we can have 50 participants attend the academy, 6 days, and then the additional coaching days.
Gotcha.
Thank you for that clarifying question.
No more questions? Winger? Yes.
I apologize, I'm sorry. This is for Winger Corporation, so this is the request for the purchase of music stands, conductor stands, as well as student chairs, and there will also be some carts that will easily remove the chairs or move the chairs. And so this is for, obviously, Fine Arts and Band, for a total of $41,542, and this would be from ESSER funds.
Okay. There are no questions. Consideration of elementary reading standard.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Irvin. I think this is the last one for me. This is not necessarily an annual approval. In the past, and this has been the last page of our elementary reading guidelines, and it is a requirement of our board policy EIE. And so last year, we brought it to you because we were switching from the developmental reading assessment to Fontana-Pinnell benchmark assessment system. Last year, we went directly with the Fontana-Pinnell gradient, if you will. And what we found throughout the school year is we do like to report the students' reading levels on the report card. Well, the gradient just wasn't matching with with the times that we were administering the test. And so we went back and instead of it being a 4-column, we just reduced it to a 3-column to more closely align with our beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year assessments. So that's the change that we've made here.
That's good. It's much more understandable. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Hill.
Thank you, sir.
We move now to the action agenda, and we only have one item, which is the consideration of the adoption of the 2022-2023 budget. Ms. Bobrick.
Good afternoon again. So the budget is a culmination of about 4 months of work, and many people are involved. It's certainly not built in a bubble. And I would like to walk through or hit some highlights in the budget booklet, which begins on page 157. But I would like to start at page 159 with our historical tax rates. And what I want to point out there is our 2023 proposed tax rate is for M&O is going to be .9973. That is a reduction of .024 cents. That is an estimate. TEA will come back and give us what our actual tax rate is. Hopefully, it will be the same. Debt service, we are seeing an increase this year, and we are increasing it to 29 cents from 24.5 cents, so that's a 4.5 cent increase. But that, even though that's an increase, it's not as much of an increase as what we had said it would be when we sold the bonds.
Right.
And then the total, those two totals add up to 1.2873 cents. And that is, when you combine it, that is an increase of just 2.1 cent. One thing I want to point out, though, is the taxpayers passed the increase in the homestead exemption. And so although we're proposing a tax increase with those that homestead exemption, it's not a one-on-one thing, but it's also not a 2-cent increase, is I guess what I'm saying. So and that is only for homeowners. Now, obviously, that doesn't apply to commercial properties. They will see that 2-cent increase. But the homeowners will likely see little increase because of that homestead exemption. Moving on to page 160, our historical certified property values. So for the 2022 tax year, we are seeing an increase in our property values, and they're at $2.6 million. That is an increase of over $244 million, and that equates to about a 10.3% increase. So all over the nation, property values are skyrocketing, and that includes us. Some are much higher than us as well, so.
So everything going high.
Yes. Next, I'd like to move to page 166. On page 166 were the budget assumptions that we use to build the budget. We are using a refined ADA of 5,203.81 students, or average daily attendance, a tax rate of 99.73, debt service tax rate of 0.29. We already discussed the certified property values. Staffing was based on enrollment of 5,980 students, and a 2% flat increase was given to all staff. Next, I'd like to move to page 168, where we'll begin going through the actual budget. And on page 168, our revenues are projected to be at $59,799,468. And on page 169 are our expenses, totaling $59,799,468. And this brings us to a balanced budget, revenues equal expenditures, and a projected ending balance of $33,354,332. So in looking at that fund balance, 1 month of operating expenditures is about $4.9 million, and 3 months would equate to $14.9 million. Moving on to page 170, I just wanted to point out the breakdown of our revenues. So,
Ms. Barber, could I ask if
yes,
the projected expenditures as it relates to the incentives are
it's
included?
not in here.
Okay.
All right. So 42% of our revenues come through local. That's our tax source. 55% comes through state, and 2.56% comes from federal funds. I'm talking about general in our M&O operating only. This doesn't include all our other federal funds. So Moving on to page 171, I wanted to point out that this is our proposed budget by function, and you see the pie chart, that the big section, 52%, that is instruction. So 52% of our budget is spent on pure instruction. Of course, there are other parts of instruction. You have your instructional resources, your library, your nurses, a lot of other resources affect students and campuses, but this is purely instruction. That's 52%. On page 172 is just a breakdown by object code, and what I wanted to point out there is our largest expense is in salaries. So of the 59 million, 47 million, over 47 million is in salaries, and that is 79.64% of our budget, which you will see that on the following page, pie chart, that most of our budget is taken up in salaries. Moving on to page 177. This is now looking at the biggest portion of our budget, which is payroll, and this pie chart shows that 60% of our payroll is spent in function 11. So that's our teachers and our paraprofessionals that are in classrooms. And then finally, moving on to, not finally, but at page 182, we are looking at our student nutrition fund. We are projecting revenues of $4.7 million, as well as an expense of $4.7 million, and an ending fund balance of $975,000. And again, our goal here is, as you look at the comparison to the current year, we're dropping in fund balance because we need to, because that was one of our dings in our audit, was that we had too high of a fund balance in student nutrition. And then finally, on page 183 is our debt service budget. We are projecting revenues of $7.1 million, expenditures of $7 million, for an ending fund balance of $4.2 million.
Far as the expenditures for the initiatives, will that appear on Thursday?
No, it won't. That will be brought to you as a budget amendment.
Okay.
In either July or August to pull from fund balance.
Okay. That's fine. Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Barber.
You're welcome.
The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meeting Act as allowed by the Texas government. Code section 551.071, 551.074, and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any actions the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 1:23. Hopefully we'll be back by 2.
Yep.
Thank you. board is now reconvening into open session, and the time is 2:22. What is your pleasure?
I move that we adjourn.
I guess I'll take your place now, Reverend, I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor?
All right.
All right. So it is. We adjourn.